No one ever talks about the gap between art school and securing a solid job. I know about internships and working freelance, of course, but how can we be more sure in our senior year that we'll be able to find work in our field doing what we love? So really, if we go back to Barron's answer about animation, that holds true here. Get really good at doing something in particular, something you can kind of hang your hat on, and then focus on the soft skills, meeting people, learning how to be more outgoing and more social if you need to, putting your work out there, and then also understanding like what it is you want to do and what the market for that is like. So, for example, like when I got out of school here, all my teachers taught at museums, or worked at museums. So they gave all these assignments as if everyone was going to work at museums. When it came down to it, there's really only 2 museums that can support full-time designers, and it's not like they hire it's not like Target. Like Target hires designers every year. You get out of school, if you're halfway decent and a nice person, this is a decent chance you can at least find a contract position at Target where you're going to make money and do work. It's not like the Walker Art Center needs 5 new designers every year. They hire 1 at poverty wages for a year as a fellowship. But I was trained as if the Walker was the size of Target, and me and my whole class are going to get jobs at museums. And I didn't understand that I needed to know the market I was stepping into, because when I actually got into that market and it was all advertising agencies, I was woefully inequipped to understand their needs, their language, their ways of working. And I'd go into like portfolio reviews, and it was like 2 foreign languages just battling it out. It was stupid. And if I had known that, I would have been like, okay, well, I'm going to either need to go to New York or LA probably. So I should spend my last 2 years of college constantly traveling to New York and LA and talking to people, and frankly, like doing whatever it takes to make those connections. Like go to New York every spring break, or go to LA every spring break, but go where the museums are, or go to London, something like that, so that you're not just trained to do work, but that you actually know what it's going to take. Because a lot of people think they're going to be like, they'll come out of here and they'll think they're going to be a book designer, and there's not a lot of book design work here because people hire their friends. So what they need to do is be in New York, being friends with people who hire book designers, not being in the middle of nowhere, having to network. That kind of thing, already knowing where you want to sit and who hires people, that will help you almost more than anything else. Because like you see bad work all the time, right? Like you see bad illustration, bad graphic design, and bad art, and bad music, and it's very popular. And you're like, how is this terrible thing popular? It's because people hire their friends. They hire people they get along with. They hire people they like to spend 8 hours a day with. They hire people or they work with artists who, when they come into the gallery for a meeting, it brightens everyone's day. And it's like, oh shit, Sam's gonna be here. Awesome, I love Sam. Sam brings donuts, sick, you know? They're less likely to be like, oh, I mean, if you're unbelievably amazing, then you get to be tolerated for being like a total asshole. But I think that's a very risky proposition, to assume that you're going to be so good that you can just be awful to everyone and just be a pain in the ass and a dick. And it's like when they bring you your coffee, you look at it and you're like, not light enough. You know, kind of like if anyone's seen Elf, the ghostwriter they bring in, what's his name there? Tyrion Lannister. Yeah, he comes in, he's the ghostwriter, and he has all these demands. He needs he's like $20,000 crisp 100s in an envelope when I get there. I want a blue Chevy Blazer at the airport. AC, 72 degrees. Like, he's got this whole kind of spiel, but he's so good that he can behave like that. Most of us are not going to be so good that we can behave like that, and even if you could, would you really want to? Not sure. I can, but if you have a follow-up.
So what about for a teaching job? If I'd like to, at some point, teach in a university painting, what would be my...
You pretty much have to get a master's degree or become famous. So if you become being famous is like being the super talented dick, right? If you're super famous, you can get away with a lot of things. You can get opportunities that you wouldn't normally be allowed to get. But in general, to teach at a university where there's job security, tenureship, a decent pay compared to a lot of places, you have to have a master's degree. And then who knows, it seems like it could be turning into the lunacy where you have to have a PhD. The more you're a known commodity in that world. So for example, if you're like, going back to our working for a museum, if you're traveling to New York, you're doing informational interviews at different museums, you're meeting designers for coffee that work in museums, you're learning about that world, you're becoming someone who's known in that world, right? Because like 5 people at a couple of museums are like, oh, hey, I had a coffee with this interesting person last week that's like trying to move here in 2 years to do what? And someone else is like, oh shit, I know them. I had coffee with them last spring break. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, that's a very committed person. The same would hold true for something like teaching. Like being known, doing good work, and then having the credentials, that's all going to come together to improve your chances. Basically, you want to have you want to try to get an advantage on every level. Like you want a skill advantage, you want a social advantage, or like a personality advantage, and then you want like a basic sort of market advantage. Like you want to be in the right place at the right time. Yeah. Oh, and your teachers have to love you. That is so important. Your teachers have to like you because they give you so many opportunities. If you get an MFA in painting and then you want to teach in painting, they're going to want to hear from people who worked with you. If you're a talented dick, you might get the most neutral letter of recommendation from your thesis advisor ever. Do you want the neutral letter of recommendation or the awesome letter of recommendation that says, Sam is awesome. You should totally have him teach. When he was a TA, he was amazing. He was so helpful to the students, but he was also rigorous and critical. Blah, 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 blah. All that stuff, right? That's what you want. So if you start to understand even the idea of the school that you're in is a, basically if you're like a very sincere politician, like you want to shake hands and kiss babies, basically.